Hello everyone, welcome back to Latino Talks, where Latino Talks has some chats and just brings you into my world. So I've been posting a lot on TikTok. Follow Latino Talks on TikTok if you haven't already. And I've just been having a lot of fun with it. And one of the comments that I got on there was, tell us about your journey about how you became a therapist. Now, there's a lot of women in therapy in the field of psychology, but there's far few Latina therapists, consejeras que son latinas y que son bilingües, right? Therapists that not only are Latina, but that we also speak the language. So today I'm going to bring you into my journey of just what it was like to become a therapist. This is going to be part one of part two of my journey being in the field of psychology. Okay, so it all started with going, of course, to college. I went to college out here in the East Bay area, and when I first started college, I was set that I wanted to be a doctor of sorts, a pediatrician specifically, because I always loved working with kids. Back when I was younger at the churches or just anywhere I would go where there would be like my mom and her friends gathering, they would always have me be the one in charge of the kids. And I just love children. I just love them. And I was always, of course, when I was younger, it was easier, but even to this day, like I'm always like childlike in a sense. So I would always play with the kids, even if they were a lot younger than me. So I was like, maybe I become a pediatrician. And if any other Latinas can relate to this, but you know, my parents being me being a first generation Latina, them traveling from El Salvador to the States, they're like, we want you to go to school, of course, but we want you que ganes dinero, right? We want you to get that money. And so the biggest thing was become a doctor, go to the medical field. That's where the money's at. Do it, do it, do it. And I'm like, well, who wouldn't want to be a doctor, right? But I was like, okay, well, I would be a pediatrician because that's more my style. So I went for it and declared myself as a biological science major, which is intense. And freshman year, going to all my classes, and girl, it was not easy, okay? When I got to anatomy, that's where it hit me, like, this isn't for me. Like, as much as I wanted it to be a part of my life, I couldn't do it. So I was in my anatomy class. I was literally failing almost all my tests. I was getting D minuses, D pluses. It just wasn't happening for me. And the science field is very rigorous and they're very fast paced. They were going way too quick for me. I was like, I do not care to learn about the 280 bones in our bodies. Like, it just wasn't, there was no passion. I didn't understand why I needed to know it. Well, I understood why for the field, but for me, there was just no buy-in. And so it took a really pivotal moment in my career of undergrad where then I changed my mind and changed to a major that I actually wanted to do. So it took me having a conversation with one of my advisors. It was actually one of the professors on the science committee or whatever. And she pulled me to the side and she's like, well, you're failing our classes. You're failing only science classes. Like, it's not a good look. And with science, like, if you don't start strong, you will not, like, it's harder to come up. You got to start strong and then you'll end strong. And at first I was a little bit like offended. I was like, what? She doesn't believe in me. She's doubting me. But deep down inside, I was like, I don't like these classes. Like, I just was wanting to not go to class. So I'm often ditching class. Like, I just was not into it. So mind you, I was in my ending of my sophomore year. Okay. So I was 2 years into this. Well, the first year I think I might've been undeclared, but you know, 2 years into technically wanted to be a doctor. And so I took my time, went through the book. They had like a handbook of all the different majors, went and read through them. I was like, this is gonna be a lot. Like, I have to literally pick what to be for the rest of my life. It was so daunting. So I can relate to you. If you're in that season where you're waiting to pick a major, it feels like a decision you have to make for the rest of your life. But no, there's so much flexibility. You don't have to graduate at the time that everyone else does. It's gonna be your personal journey. But anyways, so I looked through and I just had this gut feeling. So this is my biggest tip for you, is trust your gut. And so I was like, as I was looking through everything, nothing really stood out to me. Kinesiology, like physical therapy, because I was like, okay, maybe that's like somewhat still connected to the medical field, because again, I wanted to please my family, please my parents. They wanted me in the medical field. But it's not too, you know, science heavy, but no, that didn't work out. So I went with psychology. There was something about psychology that intrigued me. When I was a freshman in high school, I took an amazing psychology class that since then I was always like, what is this about? What is the mind about? And so I went ahead and declared myself the psychology major. And this was in my junior year in college. Now I want to backtrack a little bit to like when that professor / advisor sat me down. I was, again, you know, like, oh, what? Offended? Like, who is she to tell me? I know this. Like, I could do it. But I knew deep down inside, right? It was that tough love. That's how I would say it. Like, I needed to hear that. If I didn't have someone sit me down and say, girl, like, you're not passing these classes, and respectfully, you're not going to pass the other classes. Like, the trajectory of your transcript is just not giving, right? I needed that to happen because I was so... I think I was in people-pleasing mode, and I was, you know, I love the kids, but, you know, when you're learning that in undergrad, you're not learning about child development, you're learning the science-heavy stuff, and I just wasn't excited about it. So I'm just, like, so grateful for that professor, for that advisor that sat me down and said, think about something else, pick another major. Like, she literally said that, pick a different major. And so I just wanted to say that, like, sometimes we need that hard truth. It's hard to accept, but it's amazing to have. And so junior year, I knew that I wanted to graduate in 4 years. So I had to do everything that I could, go to summer school from my sophomore to junior to senior year. So I went to summer school, like, for 2 summers back to back, so that I could graduate on time. And I think I was even taking, like, some extra courses because I was like, okay, I declared my major super late, but I want to graduate on time. So that's when I knew it was my passion. Let me tell you when. When I was going to class and it didn't feel like a chore. It didn't feel like, oh, I got to go to class. Oh, I got to write this essay. Oh, I got to do this work. Like, yes, there was a little bit of that, like with any homework that you got to do, but I was, like, super excited to be there. I was always raising my hand in all the discussions, and in all the other classes, like, I wasn't even engaged. I was just kind of, like, on my phone, on the side doing stuff, just counting down the hours to get out of class and just go with my friends and do what I want to do, right? So it was sitting in those classes where I just noticed myself being super engaged in the material. I was, like, super curious, asking all the questions. And they had so many, like, a lot of these psychology classes has a lot of it volunteer work, where we did, like, laughter yoga with some senior citizens in Oakland, California by Lake Merritt. Just all these different things. And I was always down. Like, I was never like, oh, I don't want to do that extra thing. Like, I was always wanting to do all the extra things. So it just hit me one day. I was like, I am exactly where I need to be. And that was the start of my journey. Now, there's so much more, but I just wanted to give you, like, a little teaser. Being a Latina and being a therapist is something that is the greatest gift. Like, I'm also someone who believes in God, believes in Jesus, Holy Spirit. And so I also see my work as ministry work. Like, I'm in the field of healing. I'm in the field of healing from mental health, from emotional health, maybe not the physical health like the doctor, but I believe that God can heal us from physical health. But I just am in the field of healing, and it's so cool, you know, and I'll tell you, you know, maybe like a part 3 will be like my personal healing that I've got out of being a therapist, because I also started going to therapy myself. Once I was like, wait, I'm gonna be a therapist. I want to know what it's like to be in the room and be a client of a therapist. Now, all of this was new for me. Why? Because not a single person in my family had ever gone to therapy. No one talked about it. No one talked about it anywhere I was, except for in these classes was I first being exposed to all things therapy. So it was the best journey. And some people say they're like, therapists become therapists to find themselves. Now, sounds a little selfish, so I don't really like to partner with that. But for me, I accidentally found myself. Like, I went into it because I was a curious mind and was curious about other people's mind and stories and how to help, and eventually grew a heart for, like, seeing healing in other people, and then stumbled across finding myself. And so that's just the start. There's more to come. We're going to talk more about what it's like to be a therapist, what it's like to be a woman in the field of therapy, what it's like to be a Latina and be a therapist, not only in the field, but be a Latina who's a therapist in her family, and what that's like, which it's very interesting. So welcome back to Zatino Talks. Stay tuned for more videos, more talks around my journey. And if you have any questions, if you're interested in being a therapist, like, please comment, email me, DM me, whatever it might be. Like, I want to help you because I love this field. And being a first generation Latina means I had to pave my own way to go to undergrad and to go to grad school. I'm an only child. I didn't have an older sibling to walk me through that. So I am here for you. I'm your older sibling. I'm your older prima. I'm your older sister. I'm your friend. You're everything. Like, I want to be there for you if you're also a first generation Latina or Latino and you're like starting your journey for the first time. So stay tuned, more to come.